Hello and welcome to the Boys Upstairs Show. This is the Steelers versus Ravens.
Woo!
All right, so Steelers Ravens. It's in Baltimore. Unfortunately, Steelers went on a little bit of a skid at the end of the season, losing four straight, giving the division on a silver platter to the Baltimore Ravens, who seem to be hot right now. This spread is a very disrespectful spread. I understand why it is what it is, but if you look at the data, it's completely uncharacteristic of this matchup. Ravens are minus 9.5. Totals 44.5. This is 8 p.m. Saturday night football, as they say. We'll give it to Nixon.
The spread just doesn't make sense, but it didn't make sense last matchup, and I think did we? Yeah, we covered that. So I don't know. This game has been weird.
I
Like,
think last time it was 7.5, which
yeah,
I said at the time was insane, and then it ended up being 34 to 17.
yeah.
But yeah,
Which I don't think it'll be that, and it doesn't help that it's a Steelers game, which we everybody knows the record on that too. Like we've beaten y'all twice in the last 11 matchups. So there's a healthy amount of I feel like anxiety for me as a fan. We're probably not going to be without Zay Flowers, and that's a big loss. But we have Derrick Henry now. It's going to be 15 degrees. It's going to be snowing. Who the hell wants to hit Derrick Henry in 15 degrees and snowing? I know I don't want to. So
TJ Watt.
I don't love the spread. I'll take it. It's going to be close, and it's going to be a good matchup. I think it's going to be the game of wild card weekend. That's my guess.
Honestly, the Steelers, I'm a big team guy, like momentum, feel the vibe of the locker room. And I do think that dictate how a team comes out to play, that dictates everything about how a team plays. And recently the Steelers have just not they've not looked like the Steelers recently. And like press conferences, they know they don't look like the Steelers. Mike Tomlin quite literally said we need to get rid of the smell of shit that is on us because we play like shit like in the past few games. So they're playing bad. They know that they're playing bad. The Ravens, when it comes to spreads, like Nixon has said, it has been a weird, very weird season. And even in terms for the Ravens spread, it's just been a weird season. The Giants, that spread was quite literally three touchdowns. There's no game on earth that I would ever bet a minus 20 spread, but miraculously they covered in the fourth quarter. They covered and they covered very well. So I'm gonna take Ravens minus 9.5 here. There's nothing that the Steelers have put on paper or on the field in the past few games that have spoke numbers or spoke wonders to me that are gonna make me say Steelers are probably gonna cover this game. So Ravens minus 9.5.
The Ravens are on the up and the Steelers are on the down. While it might look like that, the Ravens have played who? Like the Giants and the Jets and us, I guess. But we've had maybe the hardest 3 game stretch in NFL history. So, I mean, yes, we've been on a down, but the playoffs are a clean slate. So, second for Cam, I also agree in momentum. But last year, the Steelers were coming off like a 4 game win streak and we were looking hot, and then we got our ass whooped in Buffalo. So there's there's something to take from that. The last time we played the Ravens, the score looked pretty bad, but going to the fourth quarter, it was a one-score game until Russ throws that pick six. So
Yeah,
you
I mean,
can't
I
really.
agree. I don't think 9.5 is a good spread. I'll put it that way. I don't think it's going to be that. Just considering the history, even the matchups you guys have won, it's been one score games. Like home or away, whether you guys are home, we're away. It doesn't matter. It's one score games all the time.
so I get it. We haven't won a playoff game since I was 15 years old. Um, Ravens are hot. Steelers are not. I get all of that. This is the biggest spread in the history of Steelers Ravens since the Ravens became an NFL franchise. That's a real stat. There's never been a spread this big. If it closes at 9.5, or I think it's up to 10 now, um, there's never been a spread that big in the history of the meetings between the Steelers and the Ravens ever, and they play twice a year every year. I do think that the Steelers are going to, for the purposes of this show, cover 9.5, regardless of if we win or not, which obviously, as a fan, I want to happen. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but I think that 9.5 is ridiculous. There's been no games in the last 11 times we've played the Ravens that the spread or the margin of victory has been higher than 7. It's always under 7. And the last time we played, the spread was 7. And I said that was too high. 9.5, it's ridiculous. Like Sean said, It was a one-score game. Russ tried to force a flat route to Michael Pruitt that would have been a 0 to 1 yard gain for some reason. That was a necessary throw for him to make that completely gave them the momentum, and it never came back. And earlier in that game, it was a tie game, and Russ had a big run to get down to the 5 yard line instead of sliding like a 36-year-old quarterback would do 100% of the time. He tried to run over a linebacker and fumbled the ball, which gave them the momentum at that point too. So I think the Steelers are going to cover 9.5. Obviously, Zay Flowers being out helps. George Pickens had the worst game of his career last week by far. Maybe one of the worst games in NFL history for a wide receiver in terms of the importance of the balls that he dropped. And I don't think that's going to happen again. I think his talent is too great for that to happen multiple times, especially in a playoff game. He's probably been at the jugs machine every week for the last 6 days, whatever day it is now, 5 days, catching 100, maybe 1,000 balls after practice every day. He doesn't want to see that happen again. So give me the Steelers plus 9.5. My gut says take the under for the total, but I'm not going to touch it. Maybe sprinkle Steelers money line because you never know. 9.5 is insane. This is primetime football. Give me Steelers plus 9.5.
I'll jump in, Tom, and I just want to preface this by saying it's not a good thing when your team is going into a playoff game and you search up the coach on Twitter and all you see is about how he should get fired and mock trades for him going to other teams. So we'll get that out of the way. I mean, here we are, and I've said all I need to say about the Ravens this year. Look, they're pretty electric. Their offense is good, defense is solid in areas, shitty in other areas, but yada yada. And the Steelers have been quite the anomaly this season, as when they were 10-3 or whatever, people thought, oh my God, they're doing it. Like, there's no way they're gonna go and do the same Steelers shit where they end up 10-7, 9-8 again just to keep Tomlin's streak going. And here we are. And it kind of hit a low point the other week or whatever on Saturday night when they got shit kicked by the Ravens when they went in there. And like you said, it was a close game for the most part. But at the end, and the final score says what the final score says. So I'm not going to sit here and talk about the schematic differences of Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Look, it's going to be, as a resident Marylander, it's going to be fucking cold here this week. It is cold right now. We're looking at another winter storm possibly on Saturday. It's going to be smash mouth AFC North football as we've seen for the last 100 or so years. And it's going to be interesting. And like I always like to say, 9.5, that's a lot of points. That is a lot of points, especially for a playoff game and a rivalry of this nature. And not to bring anyone into it, but you know who was a 9.5 point dog recently? Chicago Bears. And they ended up winning the football game. Zay Flowers being out is big. I actually do think that is big and a bigger problem than many people realize. I think it depends if they can get Derrick Henry going, running the ball, get Mark Andrews worked in, and if Lamar gets a rhythm, it's going to be tough to stop them. But there's not much hope from the Steelers side of things right now, especially from the fan base, from the media, anything. And like everyone knows, that doesn't matter. No one's confident in Russell Wilson. He's looked like shit for the past couple of weeks, and there's no real sign of it going up. There's people are starting to murmur about wanting Justin to start, but that's neither here nor there. Like I said, at the end of the day, 9.5 is too many points for a divisional matchup in football weather in Baltimore, Pittsburgh. I'm going to go with the Steelers here. I'm not going to touch that total because these offenses are either stagnant and explosive, or the Ravens are different, but they either just stagnant and just shitty for the entire game, or they start popping off out of nowhere. So I think it's going to be close in the end of the day, night game. But I don't have much else to say. It's gonna be a tight one. I think it's gonna be a grit fest, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Steelers come out on top here because that is when Tomlin and the boys kind of find their mustard. Is when their people are starting to talk shit about them.
Here we have it. 9.5, way too many points. Give me the Steelers. Smash mouth football weather. Give me the under. Give me Chris Boswell over 1.5 field goals. And give me Najee Harris to have more rushing yards than Derrick Henry.
Wow.
Horrible take.
Someone
Why?
sound the horn.
You never know.
Take the other side. Take the other side of it then.
The Boswell pick, you should put your net worth on that.
Yeah, Boswell's totally a lock. I'm saying the Najee one.
Najee more yards than Derrick Henry in this game.
I actually think they're going to use Warren because he played when last time they played us. He was the
Yeah.
one that was fucking going crazy. I think Warren is gonna get a lot more touches than Najee this game, if I had to guess.
All right. Those
You
are my
wearing
calls.
gloves, Martin?
I imagine it's cold as fuck in New York, so I don't have
Gloves are kind of soft.
Gloves are soft, confirmed. He's talking about smash mouth football, and then he's wearing gloves. What a loser.
Give you a
All right,
bunch.
I'll hop in here. I just want to give you guys a history lesson. 13 years ago to this day, January 8th, a young man by the name of Tim Tebow was playing in his first playoff game, and he hit an 80-yard touchdown slant to Demaryius Thomas to beat the Steelers in the divisional round of the playoffs.
R.I.P. Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah, God rest his soul.
Rest in peace.
Thanks for bringing up one of the worst days of my life. Also,
Yeah, worst days of many Rooney's lives, probably of all Rooney's lives. So does that have any pull towards this game? I believe it does, and I believe that Lamar Jackson will take the feeling and the power from Tim Tebow himself through some form of godliness and divine intervention and beat the Steelers by 9.5 points. However, I do think that the under will hit.
The Ravens are going to win by 9.5 points. You can't score half a point in football. Second of all, you tried
More than
to
9.5 points, sure.
You tried to tie Lamar Jackson to Tim Tebow. Name 3 things that are similar about Lamar Jackson.
They
and
love
Tim Tebow.
God. They love God.
Does Lamar Jackson love God?
He does.
Lamar Jackson loves Kodak.
He
Lamar
loves
Jackson
Kodak,
loves
but he's
God.
from Florida God. And they're both the starting quarterback of a team playing the Steelers in the divisional round.
Talk to him, Drew. I'm sold. I'm not gonna lie.
Bang. Divine intervention. Manifest destiny. Book it.
my dad didn't talk to anybody for like 3 days after that game.
That's probably the worst game.
That's crazy.
Do you remember that, Sean? We had dinner like immediately after that game, just didn't speak the whole time.
Family dinner after a heartbreaking loss is one of the worst things ever.
That sounds like
That's real family trauma, Andrew.
My bad, bro.
It's normally a close game, even though last time it wasn't. The Steelers were beat up, though. They were very beat up, and they're getting some players back. I know Pickens just had the fucking game of his life the other day, so I'm assuming he's going to bounce back a little bit to prove himself. So I think he's going to be going at it. I think that Najee, I think it was Nixon who made the point that it's hard to tackle in the snow. He's not the same as Derrick Henry by any means, but he's still a bigger running back. They have Jalen Warren too. I feel like that's going to be a good combo.
Justice Hill comes back, by the way. I don't know if you guys cared about that. Justice Hill is back for the Ravens.
Well, now let me change my. No, I'm just kidding.
It changes everything.
Yeah, wait a minute. Why didn't nobody tell me this before? But yeah, I feel like they can keep it a 1-score game. These two teams are there's so much history, and this is a playoff game. I feel like that it's going to be a close game, at least within 10. I feel like it's going to be 7 maybe, a 1-score. But I'm also going to take the under. I feel like these two teams have already had 2 crazy games so far this year, and they see each other every year, obviously twice a year. Cold football. I feel like this is going to be a lot of running the ball, Derrick Henry and Najee, like I said, it's going to be cold, so I feel like they're going to get the ball a lot. So I feel like a lot of times going to run off the clock. Not a lot of scoring probably. These 2 great defenses. Like mentioned, Zay's out, so the Ravens are a little down, and even though they're getting Justice Hill back, and the Steelers have been struggling offensively the last couple weeks. So I feel like this is going to be a lot of running, not a lot of kicking. Like the people were talking about, Chris Boswell will probably kick 2 field goals, a lot of kicking, a lot of running, a lot of time coming off the clock. Lamar's also famously a little bit of a playoff struggler. Not crazy. I mean, he's been doing better recently, but overall, he tends to take a little dip in the playoffs. So I feel like it's definitely going to be the under. And that the Steelers are going to cover plus 10.5.
Also, that just made me remember this, Cobb. I saw earlier today that Lamar is 0-2 in nighttime playoff games in his career. So, for what that's worth, this is a nighttime playoff game. Also, this game, like Kobe was just talking about, this game starts at 8 o'clock. This game might be over by 9:45. The clock is not going to stop the entire game, except for the third and long throws that may have to be made. But This game will go very fast.
This is one of the games that's like 8:45, and you're like, how the fuck is it halftime?
Exactly. Exactly right. All right. Hey, like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell your wife. Tell your girlfriend, boyfriend, all of that. Our latest data came out, and I think we have like 1% female listeners. So for those
Thank
people.
you, Maya.
Yeah. Thanks, moms of people who watch the show.
Yep. Shout out, mom. Shout out,
Like and
Tracy.
subscribe.